Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to Where the Road Rises. With me, your host, Eileen Curlin Walsh. Happy 2020. I hope this will be a peaceful and safe new year for you. And our show today on avoiding senior scams and identity fraud aims to keep it that way for you. While we've often discussed the resources available to make your lives as happy and easy as possible, there are also those out there who will prey on you and, if given an opportunity, cheat you out of your precious life savings. But not if my guest today has anything to do with it. Lynn Lionhood to the rescue. Lynn is an executive director at Legal Shield and a networking genius, for which she has earned the prestigious Prominent Chicagoan Award. In addition to her work with Legal Shield and running 3 popular networking groups, she speaks locally and nationally on business success and fraud prevention. As with this show, Lynn's work focuses on protecting seniors who unfortunately do become more vulnerable to fraud as they age. And that is what she will help us with today. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Eileen. I appreciate the opportunity to come today.
Delighted to have you, Lynn. You know, full disclosure, Lynn and I are in a networking group together, and she truly is a force of nature.
Thank you.
So we're excited to have her speak on one of the subjects. She speaks on many today on avoiding senior scams. So why don't we just jump right in, Lynn, and tell us what are the most prevalent senior scams at the moment?
The ones that are the most prevalent right now is the grandparent scheme for seniors. And that's pretty serious because grandparents love their grandchildren very much. And consequently, they'll get a call, and the call will say, "We have little Bobby." Or sometimes they won't give a name. They'll just say, "We have your grandson here, and he is being held because he was drunk driving. And if you will send us $2,500, we will release him, and then he can call you and talk to you." So many grandparents will be very, very frightened by this, and they'll say he doesn't want to call his parents. He doesn't want to let them know what's going on. So they're going to kind of be hush-hush about what's going on, and they'll wire the money. And so many seniors are caught up in this because of their love of grandchildren. So I always tell them the easiest way to combat that is ask them, which grandson is it? Even if you only have one, they don't know that. So let them know that you'd like to know which one. And that way, many times they'll hang up and they'll realize that they can't come up with the answer.
Yeah.
But that particular scam has morphed into some other scams which are really bad. One is a hostage scam, and I tell people that they're playing with fire when they do that scam. And the reason why is they may call and say to an elderly woman, "We have your husband and we're holding him hostage." And consequently, she'll panic and they'll say, "Just wire us $1,000 and we'll let him go." And I said, I wouldn't do that to most seniors if I was you, because you don't know that you're not finding a senior woman who says, "You give me $1,000 and I'll take him back." And then you're stuck.
That's funny.
That's true.
Lynn, but how do they know? Is it because so much of our data is available
That's
on the
absolutely
internet?
right. People are giving up way too much information these days, and now they're seeing that scam go one step further, which is worse. I have a very close friend that you know also, and she deals with military families. And military families, when my brother was in the military, when he went, we knew where he was stationed, we knew how we could reach him, and maybe there'd be a short period of time that we didn't have conversation with him, but we did know where he was. These days, because of the way that we fight wars, many people go into the military and we don't know where they're stationed for maybe 6 months. They'll reach out to us at times. So now they're taking that very same scam and they're calling and saying, "We have your military family member and we are holding them hostage." And where do you go to check to see if this is true or not? You don't know. And that one would scare me the living daylights out of me. And then they're going to demand money. And will you give it or will you not? And that's what's terrifying. So it's just horrible that it's gone that route.
It is terrifying, especially because they're preying on the kindness.
Correct.
The grandparent.
Correct.
Oh, it's just You know, we try so hard to be positive in this show, and as I said, we bring so many positive resources, but unfortunately we do have to keep our eyes open and know that not everyone is operating for your best interests. Many of our seniors, Lynn, age in place, and that's one of the things we try to encourage, that they are able to age in place. But what are the scams that our seniors who are aging in place, who are staying in their homes, are most vulnerable to?
I think they see that as that is their independence, to stay in their home, and they don't want to give that up. Many of them fight like the Dickens to not lose the ability to drive, and many of us have dealt with that, where a parent is, you can see their driving is impaired, but they're afraid that if they give that up, they're now dependent upon asking someone to take them everywhere. So that morphs into some things that happen with their homes. And so you'll find that a lot of seniors these days, they are either the patriarch or the matriarch of the family for so long that admitting that they've been a victim of identity theft is something they can't bring themselves to do. They're embarrassed, they're ashamed, and they don't know where to go to give that information. They're afraid to go to their own children and let them know that they've been taken advantage of, even if it's financial and it continues. They're afraid to tell them because they feel if they do, the child will now not only have they lost the ability to drive, they will now lose the ability to control their finances and live on their own. So you will find people that will know that there's an older woman or an older man that lives by themselves, and many times they can tell because the home will not be kept up like it used to be kept up, the yard will not be kept up, and they will peruse a neighborhood with a ladder, usually on an older truck. I've seen a van come by my house one day and do this because the average age of my neighbors is 85, and they pulled up with a truck. I could see them from my window. I think they painted the truck with a paint roller. That's how bad this was. He had a ladder on the top of the truck. He must have hand lettered the sign when he was drinking because even the letters weren't straight. I dialed the number, which went nowhere, but most seniors won't think to do those things. And he'll take that ladder off and tell them, I need to check your roof. I think there may be some issues. I'm working in the area with someone else. And I would ask most seniors to start out, do you know what color the shingles on your roof are? Because most don't know. I don't know what the color, I know what my neighbor's shingles color is because I see that out my window. So they will go on the roof. They'll stay there for a short while. I think if the senior were to look, they would see them answering text messages or playing a game on their computer. They're on the roof. But they will come down and show the senior pictures and say, you're missing 27 shingles. And as I walked around, I almost went through the roof in a very weak spot that needs to be fixed. The truth is, they do have pictures. They're just not pictures of that senior's roof. And they will come down and tell them, you could, we're going to head into the winter, you could have some very bad issues, and there will be no one who can go on the roof when there's snow on the roof, and they will scam them from a lot of money. They may do it with windows, they're going to do it with foundations, they're going to do it with large, expensive things, and many times they will never do the work.
So they will convince you that need is great and urgent.
You need the money for supplies.
Contract, get a
Correct.
deposit from you immediately, and then they just disappear.
Never return. You never see them again. They do things also like reverse mortgages. Those are very big because seniors are hearing that on television and saying, I'm very short in money. I've got a medical procedure I'm putting off. Maybe I need the money for it and I don't have it. And someone will convince them. So listen, there are very legitimate reverse mortgage places. I'm not taking anything from that. But if you need a reverse mortgage, you need yourself or family member to go approach someone about that. But if someone approaches you about that, now you need to put your guard up. So they will come to them with a reverse mortgage deal and say, you have $200,000 in equity in this house, and if you need a vacation, if you need a new appliance, if you need whatever it is, you can tap into the equity in that home and I'll help you take care of all that. So then they will say, in order to get you the reverse mortgage, we first need to repair the foundation, repair the windows, repair the roof. And back again to those expensive items, I need the money up front to be able to get those started, and they never show up. The last thing about people who live on their own, this was a generation where the timeshares first began when they were in their prime. And lots of them bought timeshares. And now they're finding that they've used them throughout their life, and now they're at an age where they don't need them anymore. Again, very legitimate companies that will dissolve your timeshare and buy it and get rid of it for you. But there are also people taking advantage. So if you are approached by someone asking if you have a timeshare, be very wary. Go to your children and ask for their advice to help you. Don't give any information up, because many times, again, they will say, the value of that timeshare, I could get that sold for you within 90 days, and you'll have your full value back out of it. Now, I need to come by and get some paperwork signed first. So please get out all your timeshare information, and many seniors are completely signing the timeshare over to someone else and not knowing that, and that person disappears knowing full well that nobody's going to do anything for 90 days. That gives them a big lead to get away. It's very, very sad.
It is. And I think one of the most important things I heard from what you have just been saying is that the key to legitimate services versus scams is you go searching, have your family help. Go search for the institution, the reverse mortgage, the reputable builder, rather than just take someone who calls you up or connects with you over the internet or shows up at your door.
Correct.
Oh my, oh my. Okay, so let's segue to the internet and to the computer. Many of our seniors, to their credit, have bravely learned how to use their smartphone, get on the computer, get online, either taking classes or roped their grandchildren into helping them and got those smartphones. How are they vulnerable as they go online to see pictures of their grandchildren and check out senior sites and that sort of thing?
They have very limited knowledge. And that's because they did not grow up with computers.
Right.
The younger generations grew up with them. They don't know life any differently than that. So my favorite commercial was always that commercial that comes on that shows children coming to visit their elderly parents, and their elderly parents meet them with all of their electronic equipment and say, here, you need to fix all of this. That would be me. So my worry here is that many, many seniors will be approached. Microsoft is one of the biggest ones. They will call you on the phone. Now, where they're getting this information to call people, I don't know. But they will tell you, we've noticed that your computer is running slow, which will concern the senior because they'll say, oh yeah, I think it is. And then they'll say, if you will just log into this website, I can access your computer and we can have it all fixed for you shortly. That's terrible. You don't want to do that. That's like giving them the keys to your car. That's like giving them the keys to your house. You don't ever let anyone that you don't know into your computer, because once in, they never leave. Once in, they found the areas, and they know where to look, where you've kept your passwords, where you've kept some information on your credit card coming up consistently when you purchase something, so you don't have to enter it all the time. They know where to go to get that information, and that could be devastating for you. Yeah. So I've played a little bit with some of those Microsoft people, and I've had a Microsoft person call me, and just to see what their response would be, I said to them, we only have one computer in the house, and it belongs to my husband. Okay, well, go to his computer and I want you to put this in. I said, but my husband passed away. And they said, oh, well, you're probably going to use the computer, so you should go to... They will push and push and push until you just can't take it anymore and you go. So never, never, when they call, put that login into your computer.
Now, is it genuinely Microsoft or
no.
someone? So that's someone pretending to be
Think
from
about
the
it.
company.
We've got 330 million people in the country. Yeah. Do we believe that Microsoft has 330 million people looking at each and every one of our computers? Microsoft doesn't care if your computer's running slow.
No.
They're not watching.
No.
They're not watching. And there are things like they will call you and say they're from the IRS and we're going to put you in jail and we found that you owe money and you've got to pay immediately, or we're going to send someone out to put you in jail. That will scare and frighten an elderly person. Yes. They may have said, my whole life I've never been in trouble with the law, and now I'm in trouble. And so the answer is no. The IRS does not call you on the phone and tell you things like that. They use a lot of times emails to let you know that you've won the Nigerian lottery or you've won the Irish sweepstakes.
We've all got
so
that.
I have a hint for all of you. Yeah. You cannot win the Nigerian lottery or the Irish sweepstakes without a ticket. If you didn't get a ticket, you didn't win. So just avoid those people. Nobody that ever tells you to go put money in an account or take a check to the bank and deposit it, no.
Right.
Call your children. It's your turn to tattle to mommy and go tell your children everything.
And if you don't have children, who are those safe
who are the people you go
people
to?
in your life who are going to help you take care of things? Whomever your caregivers are,
Correct.
your support network, get to them. Lynn, as you spoke about online, one of the things that's so troubling and we're hearing more and more about is romantic scams, that seniors are scammed as they go online and decide, especially if they're single, in their 60s and 70s, and they like the idea and the promise of love again. And yet there are so many pitfalls there also.
They're very lonely. Maybe they had a spouse pass away 2 or 3 years ago, and they're just very lonely, and they can't imagine living the balance of their life without companionship. So they go to these sites because they're targeted specifically for seniors. They will say a 50 and over seniors site or a 60 and over senior site. And what's going to happen is some of them are very legitimate, but sometimes you will get people on there portraying themselves as a senior and they're not. And what they need to understand is that the internet is so vast that you can take a picture from anywhere and say, this is me and this is what I look like. I mean, I'd love to put a picture up of some 35-year-old beautiful blonde and say, that's me, but it's not. And what's going to happen is you're going to find an older gentleman and he's going to find this beautiful 35-year-old woman who's now conversing with him every single day, back and forth. She's so interested in his life. Or it could be a woman and it'll be a 40-year-old man. And all of a sudden he's very interested in what's going on in her life. And he may sometimes say things like, I knew a case where a woman was conversing with this gentleman shortly after her husband passed away. She came into a lot of money from the insurance, and all of a sudden this gentleman was paying attention to her. He said he was in Sudan. He worked for the government in a position where she could not check him out to see that he was there. He used to live down south and he had all these beautiful homes and cars and he sent photos. And I said, but those photos could have come from anywhere. You don't know that that's his stuff. Well, he was adamant he wanted to come and meet with her. So it was very shortly after that he arrived, and he was looking for her to upfront some money to him because he was a little short, just needed $1,500 to get back, but when I get my money, I'll send it to you. Wrong, they won't. So they will pry from you information and they will say, I'm in California, you're here. I really want to come and see you after they've developed this relationship, but I need to take care of a few outstanding bills before I can come. Well, now you're so wrapped up in this, you want them to come. So you say, well, how much are the bills? Well, the bills are $2,500. I'll wire you the $2,500 and then you can come and see me. Okay, you wire the money and the next thing you know, you converse back and forth and they say, but I need to get a ticket. And you know, it's a last minute ticket, that'll be $1,000. And you wire the $1,000 to them. And the next thing you know, they say, well, I'm in California, you're in Chicago, it's cold, I need some cold clothing to wear. And they will just keep taking money. There was a woman in the Chicagoland area who lost her entire home. She tapped into everything that she had, and no one ever showed up. So I want you to understand that when you see that beautiful picture of that man or that woman, think about that could be a bearded Romanian man that's behind that picture. It is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
So I tell seniors, if you're looking for companionship, go down to your local senior center. Meet someone of your own age group, lives in your own community that you can check out.
Oh, Lynn. And as you referred to earlier, the deeper complication with the romantic scams is the embarrassment.
Correct.
The idea that now your children find, one, that you were looking for love again, and two, that you have sent money. So rather than, if you're even starting to suspect, rather than look to the people that would help you instantly identify this.
Shame.
You have shame, humiliation, embarrassment, and you don't tell. And maybe that's why it gets to continue.
Why it gets worse
for such a long
worse
time.
And worse.
So yeah, that's terribly unfortunate. But just listen to those wise words. Do not immediately take advantage of something coming to you. Any of these things you can find legitimately by going out to the companies that offer them, who are not going to come to you because they know that, you know, their customers are going to come to them.
Correct.
What about, Lynn, I've heard you talk about genetic testing, that we go to senior fairs and suddenly there's someone there saying, let me offer free braces, genetic testing. What's behind that?
Those things sound very legitimate. You may go in where they're doing screenings and they'll check your eyes and they'll check your spine, and you'll go to a booth and they'll say, we're going to do some free genetic testing. Won't cost you anything, and seniors like free.
Yes.
So there you go. You're standing in line and you bring all your friends over and you're all going to get the free genetic testing, and they're going to tell you it's going to be very good for you to know genetically what you're predisposed to for end-of-life issues. Maybe you're predisposed to cancer and you wouldn't know that. And so you're very curious and you want to get that done. So you sign up for everything. What you don't know that's going on behind the books is it's not free. It is paid for by someone. It's not the senior. They're going to take their Medicare number and bill Medicare. And they don't bill Medicare a normal amount. They're going to inflate that amount huge. And that's going to be on your record that that was paid for through your Medicare. So maybe once, not a big deal, but then they begin to use ways to reach you, and then they'll say, well, we're going to do this testing, and we're going to offer you free braces, a brace for your arm, a brace for your elbow. You know, old people have a lot of things that start falling apart. Pretty soon you have a brace for every part of your body. But the problem is they've shut down some of these large scams now because people have a box full of braces that were all free, but Medicare got billed for all of them. The bad thing for most seniors is pretty soon your Medicare number is identified with Medicare fraud. How would a senior feel if they lost their Medicare? That would be devastating to them. But that's what they're putting you in jeopardy of when they do these things. So you must be very, very cautious. Free is not free.
Good gracious, good gracious. And it almost sounds too like that if you have fallen prey to one scam, then you're now much more liable to fall prey to others because, you know, those forces have your information and see you
The bad guys talk.
as an easy touch. You mentioned Medicare, and of course that's huge in all of our seniors' lives. Tell our viewers how, when they start getting that influx every year, either when they turn 65 or every year when it's time to renew, how do they trust the information that comes in through the phone and in through the mail?
I think what's most sad, and I don't understand why the government doesn't step in and do something about this, seniors will be confused when they're getting tons of information that comes in. There will be a lot of information that says Medicare.com, and they don't know any different. They're going to assume that's Medicare. It's not. It is a company that is selling you things and not always selling you what you need or what you want. They're selling you what's in their best interest. So you want to be very, very careful. If it says Medicare.com, throw it in the garbage. What you're looking for is Medicare.gov. And that's what most seniors don't know, again, because they didn't grow up in this age. It's very, very confusing to them. So when in doubt, if you can't remember what I've said, take all of your Medicare information and go to the person that provides you your Medicare supplements, or take it to a family member. Take it to someone else and let them look it over. It's never going to hurt you to do that.
Right, right, Lynn. And you also mentioned end-of-life issues a little bit there. What should the seniors look out for when it comes to making arrangements or after a spouse passes?
I think we are caught up in the emotion of having lost a spouse. You may have been married for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you're devastated by the loss of your loved one. And of course, again, lots of very legitimate end-of-life services that you can speak to, but those are the ones that you go see. That's the funeral home on the corner that you've dealt with for other things in the past. Now all of a sudden someone contacts you and said, we realize that your husband Tom has passed and you would want to do what was best for him, but we want to let you know the good news. Tom has been paying on plots for both of you, and Tom has been prepaying for funeral services for you. Now that would not raise a red flag because there are prepaid funeral services these days. Yeah. But here's what's the problem. They've approached you. That's where your flag should go up. And most people won't think about that because they're devastated by what's going on. And when they approach you, they'll say, well, Tom paid off almost all of it, but there still is a balance of $3,500 due. And once you pay that, everything is taken care of for Tom and everything is taken care of for you. The two of you will be laid to rest together. They're going to make it very, very good. And he picked the best coffins and the best of everything. The problem is, once you've given them that money, you don't see them again, and there was nothing ever paid for. So you need to go out and seek the people you want to do business with. If they seek you out, it's not for good purposes.
And we do, of course, have wonderful funeral homes who offer legitimate
Absolutely.
services and arrangements and trusts you can pay for in advance.
Correct.
But we keep coming back, viewers, to the idea that you go for the services you need rather than letting someone who approaches you take advantage of you.
I often tell them with that service also, if you're unsure as to whether they're legitimate or not, ask them to see the payment record that your husband made. And then when you ask for that, I know they're not going to be able to provide that, and they'll say, well, let me get that information and come back, and you'll not see them again. So that's a good way to shut it down.
But these are, I mean, con men
Correct.
and con women. It comes from confidence tricksters. So it comes from that they are able to instill confidence in you. So
Correct.
this is deep psychology. Those who are involved in defrauding us have a deep understanding of how to respond to each of our objections and how to appeal to us in a very compelling way. As you said, the grandchildren,
oh, yes.
the grandson who may very well have drank too much or gotten in a little bit of trouble, they know that you're going to try maybe even to save that grandson from his parents finding
Correct.
out. So it's very, very clever. So if you have been defrauded, if you have fallen prey to some of this, it's not because you're foolish. It's because they're very clever. And they have spent a lot of time and money to get good at this. Just know up front what to avoid. And if you do find yourself down a path, cut it off as soon as possible. And as Lynn said, get help from the people in your life that are there to protect you, your support network. Lynn, we mentioned at the beginning that you work for Legal Shield. So tell us what Legal Shield can do for our viewers to prevent identity theft.
Legal Shield has two components, the legal component and it has the identity theft component. There are lots of identity theft companies, but most identity theft companies out there will monitor your information. And that's very much like, okay, now I realize I've been a victim of identity theft. They're going to contact you and say, we see you've been a victim of identity theft, Eileen. Well, you already knew that. And so before the nightmare begins, I want somebody who's not only going to look and see that for me, but who's going to be there to fix that for me. So that's what's very important. I often say to people, think about it like this. If I came home today from my errands and there was a fire department in front of my house and I saw the flames shooting out of the roof of my home, I would say, okay, I feel very comfortable that the fire department is here. But when they hand me the hose and ask me to do the work, that's impossible. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where to aim that. And so not a good service. I would rather pay someone and know that they notify me my house is on fire and that they put the fire out. Yeah. The other most important thing you need to know is that most companies that are out there today, people will say, I have some identity theft protection through my credit card. No, you don't. You're protecting that credit card only. That's all you're doing. A lot of companies will only do the monitoring of your financial information. Identity theft is so much more prevalent these days. They need to look at things like they need to look at your social security number. You don't want a letter from the IRS saying someone used your social security number and made $35,000 worth of income in California. You haven't paid the taxes on that. Somehow the law always says innocent until proven guilty, unless it's identity theft. When it's identity theft, you need to prove that that's not you. But in the meantime, the IRS wants a payment plan on those taxes. They'll give it back to you if you can prove it wasn't you. Yeah. You want someone to watch your driver's license. You don't want someone to use your driver's license number and go out and drive drunk, and now they've got 3 convictions and your driver's license has been pulled and you don't even know that until you're pulled over. So those are very important things. You, again, want them watching your financial. You want them watching your medical information. Most companies do not watch medical information. We do. And the best way I can explain that to you is if someone were to see your medical information and they were to go out and try to buy a medical plan and couldn't get it because maybe they were HIV positive and they were turned down for a plan. If they saw your information and used that information and got a plan, now they want to go in and they want to get a knee operation. As much as we're in the computer age these days, go in for surgery and you go in at 6 o'clock in the morning, they will give you a clipboard and a pen and ask you to fill out your medical information. And you do fill it out. Well, this person who's using your information fills it out and puts down that they are an insulin-dependent diabetic. There are two people that use the Medical Information Bureau, and that's the place that your doctors and your hospitals report all the surgeries you had, all the treatments that you're being given. It's all there. Insurance companies use it when you buy life insurance to make sure that you've been very honest, and that's what underwriting is all about. And hospitals and doctors use that in an emergency situation where you're unconscious, can't speak for yourself. They have to know, are you by any chance allergic to medication that I might be going to treat you with? Are you being treated with a cancer drug that I need to know about? So let's take that scenario. Someone uses your information, goes in and has a knee surgery, and they've changed your medical information by filling this out because this is going to be reported to the Medical Information Bureau. So it's now going to read that you are an insulin-dependent diabetic, which you aren't. But you won't know that information has been changed. 10 years goes by, you're in a car accident, you are unconscious, taken to the hospital, they access your information and go, Eileen is an insulin-dependent diabetic, we need to hit her with insulin. They will hit you with insulin, which will kill you. And when your family goes to go after the hospital for giving you insulin, they're not going to be responsible because it's not their responsibility that that information at the Medical Information Bureau be good. That they just access it to save your life. So you want someone watching that medical information and making sure that if there are major changes made, that you're notified and can correct it before it's too late.
Good gracious, many pitfalls. For all its shattered, broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world, viewers. I do want to remind you of that. We do have to make sure that we don't fall prey to some of the scams that are out there. But as we speak about on this show week after week, there are many wonderful resources there to protect you and keep you safe. Lynn, if our viewers would want to know more about protecting their identity, or someone would like to have you come speak to their group about this really fascinating and important subject, let our viewers know how they can reach you.
It's going to be very, very long. It's going to be Lynn, L-Y-N-N-R, Lionhood, L-I-O-N-H-O-O-D, wearelegalshield.com. Or they can email me at RHL, which is like really happy Lynn, 6807@gmail.com. Or they can call me at 630-697-6889.
Lynn, thank you.
Thank you
so
very much.
That was terrific information.
Wonderful.
And viewers, I'm going to leave you with a quote I found recently that I just loved. The same boiling water that hardens potatoes softens eggs. So it's not the circumstances you find yourself in, but what you do with them. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time on Where the Road Rises.